And now here is Paul A. Ibbetson, the czar of radio coolness.
All right, radio listeners, welcome back to this segment of the Conscience of Kansas radio program. I want to talk a little bit about big government in your life, especially as it pertains to the green environmental push. What this push has really entailed is a violation of your constitutional rights. Remember that we are all ordained with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And part of that pursuit and liberty that we have is that you can decide what you want to buy. If you want to buy a product, you buy it. If you don't, you don't. It's called the free market. It's very simple. Our country's done very well by it. But as of late, we have liberals within the government that have been pushing this environmentalism, where they get in cahoots with corporations pushing these green products, and they mandate that you buy stuff. And one of the things that has really chapped my hide has been the mandating of these CFL light bulbs. Can't have the old light bulbs because they're not safe. We want a green, friendly environment for Mother Earth, for our future. We want this. Well, I've always had an issue with light bulbs and the cost and how they've gone out and how they don't last very long. I've always thought that was a ruse. And when I first learned that was when I was in Coffeyville, Kansas, and I was at the Brown Mansion. This was a mansion built in 1904. And the guy who designed it, Edward Wilder and Thomas White, they have this giant chandelier that's inside of this mansion. Very, very high off the ground, hard to get to. And the guy that owned it, W.P. Brown, a businessman who really lived the American dream. He had a mining and gas company and several other things, really owned most of Coffeyville, Kansas at one time. He said, hey, that chandelier is going to be hell to replace the bulbs in it. And so make me a bulb that doesn't go out. Okay, make me several bulbs so I can put in that chandelier so we don't have the help dropping off of 40-foot ladders and dying. Well, I was visiting the Brown Mansion in the 1980s, and those lights had been going nonstop without the bulbs going out since 1904. Now, I don't know if any of the lights have burned out since then, any of those bulbs have burned out, but they'd already made it 80 years by the time I was looking at that. So I've always been questioning whether or not these light bulbs that we buy regularly should go out every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you have to buy new ones. But even worse than that is the idea that the government's going to tell me which bulb I can buy and which bulb I can't. You know, the CFLs are dangerous. Early on, we were shown that if you break one of these CFL light bulbs, you got to go through a whole hazmat procedure. Now, where do you get this information? Am I making it up? No, you go to the EPA, to their Environmental Protection Agency website, and they tell you what to do. You got to air out the room. You can't use the vacuum cleaner. You got to get babies and animals out of the way. You got to try to get a glass jar to put the shards in. Don't put it into a plastic or paper bag. No. You got to take it to a special facility. It's like you're dropping uranium or nuclear sludge in your house if one of these breaks. Why is there a problem? Well, the first thing we knew early was that these bulbs, these green, friendly to planet Earth bulbs, are full of mercury, and mercury is poisonous to humans. Who the hell was coming up with that idea? Well, these big environmental green pushers are who doing that. And the government saying Barack Obama, Al Gore, all these liberals that are on these zero population growth, save the planet, man-made global warming, crazy road are saying it doesn't matter. You guys make whatever you want. We're going to push it. We're going to mandate that people buy it. We're going to use the government to force you to do it. Well, there's more to these CFLs than just having mercury floating around, killing your cats and having your family have to go through a hazmat procedure. We see from my buddy, Brian Sussman, who wrote a very, very cool book called Climate Gate. And he's a veteran meteorologist. You need to really pick up his book, Climate Gate. He talks about the CFL light bulbs now are believed to cause skin cancer. Skin cancer. I mean, how can these people make these light bulbs that are going to kill you? A study has recently been published in the Journal of Photochemistry and Photobiology reveals that the CFLs remit ultraviolet radiation. They emit ultraviolet radiation, which is supposed to be blocked by a phosphor coating. However, scientists from Stony Brook University on Long Island, New York, noted that the protective coating is lacking in these CFLs, or inconsistently applied, allowing the emissions of significant levels of ultraviolet rays. So, their study revealed that the response to healthy skin cells to UV emitted from the CFL bulbs is constant, and with damage coming from subsequent use. So now we got that issue. Too bad the government mandates that we buy it. Too bad the government says this is all there is. If you don't hoard up the other light bulbs for the long term, you're going to have to buy ours because we're going to be eco-friendly. And Sussman calls this eco-tyranny. And it's exactly true. Is these people, these eco-freaks that have an issue with the capitalistic free market and want big government to run everything in your life, to these la-di-da, pie-in-the-sky, rainbow worshipers that believe that man-made warming is taking place, that we're destroying the planet, and somehow we have to curb everything we do in America, that we have to become a third world country. We have to destroy the capitalistic free market that would have decided these in the long term anyway. If these longer-lasting bulbs that they're touted with these CFLs, if these better for the environment CFL light bulbs were a better thing, then the free market would have dictated that. They would have come out more efficient, but also cheaper to use, easier to collect, service, manage, and people would have bought them. They would have bought them because they wanted them. They would have bought them because they were economically viable in today's world. They would have bought them because they wanted to be good to the planet. But it's hard to be good to the planet when the government's got a barrel of a gun up against your back. You really don't find that you want to be too friendly to anything when you're being forced to be a slave under the guise that if you just be a slave, you'll be doing good to Mother Earth. Now, I have to admit, when you find, and we constantly find, that these products that have not been vetted by the free market, they've not been tested and tried, they're just created and forced upon the people, when they turn out to be terrible, like these CFLs, that really hurts their support in getting public support from the populace. Yeah, the media will tell you it's all good and dandy, but what do we know about the media? Don't trust the liberal media. They are carrying the water for Barack Obama. They're carrying the water for these environmental tree hugger nut jobs, and they're not doing the best by the American people with our Constitution or even the planet, even Mother Earth. We kick them in the groin for the things they're doing to this planet under the guise of protecting the planet. Get rid of these CFLs. I've had enough mercury in my life, and I don't need skin cancer.